Hello and welcome to Chef Dell's Diet Daze. I find it difficult to talk about diet and weight loss without talking about my younger brother. We are a year and a half apart in age, and we've always been very close and good friends. And we've experienced the same, or we've lived the same life in dieting, pretty much. There was a period where he was a normal weight person up into college, even while I was still on a diet, or at least perceiving myself to be overweight. The one thing that we've always had in common is our love of food, and it's hard to imagine that we could have possibly been thin people all of our lives, given our family's relationship with food and how it was passed on to us. I say it that way because genetics were handed down to us, but genetics did not make us fat. It's the food choices that we made, the lack of exercise and movement in our lives that contributed to both of our being obese in younger years and again as adults, both approaching our 60s. So I thought we'd have a conversation and just talk about some of those things. But my clear takeaway from this is that while you may be struggling and you may think that your genes play a role in your health outcomes, it's your behaviors that determine your genetic expression. It's your behaviors that determine whether those genes get turned on or off. Okay. All right. So in a call recently, and I believe you were on this call, one of the participants talked about, and I believe she was a relative of ours too, talked about the role of genetics in our health outcomes, especially as it pertains to being overweight and all of that. And I don't think I convinced her that genetics is not the powerhouse that people think it is when it comes to your health outcomes. So I thought, by way of anecdotal conversation, that you and I would talk about our weight loss stories and struggles. They've been kind of parallel, but I guess my first question to you would be, was there ever a time in your life where you felt like genetics was the reason why you were overweight?
I've never really given any thought to that. I've simply looked at our family and see that many of us had similar struggles with food. And I never considered it genetics as much as we had good cooks in the family. We had delicious food. We never had to do without. From an early age, we worked, we carried newspapers and so on, so we could get what we wanted. But genetics, no, I never really considered that. I mean, we have cousins on both sides who were thin. Why was their situation different from ours? We know our parents have had difficulties. Our oldest brother, not so much, but yeah, issues there, but not genetics as much as for all of us lifestyle. When we were all younger and active and burning off calories, we could eat what we want and we were doing fine. As we became older, and that's across the board, became more sedentary, we still like to eat, but we get bigger. I don't think that's a genetic thing. I think that's just a reality. Maybe genetics has more to do with our lack of activity later in life, but I think it's just that, we're slowing down. And then managing the eating is a different matter. But it's a combination of good food availability and decrease in activity.
Dr.
When I really started,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, I was going to say when I started gaining weight, um, and at the largest increments, or when it became the biggest problem, was when I stopped walking everywhere. Once I got a vehicle to drive to and from work and home and everywhere, the weight started coming on. So if I got rid of that vehicle or stopped driving it and I went back to walking everywhere, all across my hometown here in Indiana, I bet you that weight would come off and I could still eat what I wanted.
I've always said the same thing, that if I had never driven a car, I would have probably been a normal weight person most of my life. In fact, I can remember back in the early to mid 2000s, after I had gained significant amount of weight, there was a period where I didn't have a car. Actually, it was right around 2002. I had gained a significant amount of weight, and then my car stopped working. I didn't have a car for 6 months. So I had a part-time job downtown in the North Market here, and had to get on the bus and get off the bus and then walk the 2.5, 3 blocks to work every day. And I lost weight, right? So, I know that it's a combination of food choices and activity levels, but I also know that we were set up for this kind of a problem. In other words, we were both put on a diet at this very same doctor's visit. I think I was 8 and you were 6. Do you remember the age you were?
I don't remember the year, but we were young. We were young.
I think it was 8 and 6, somewhere around there. I remember that you had more success on that diet than I did, that you always lost a little bit more weight when we went back for weigh-in. But I don't remember is I think we went in for a few weigh-ins and then that was it. We were left to our own devices. No one ever told us what an 800-calorie diet looked like. Mom never did. And I don't know that she sat there and counted calories for us either. But I do remember that I would sneak food. I do remember that, going to the penny candy store on the way to school, and those kinds of behaviors that became a rather normal thing. Were you thin? And I don't know why I can't remember this. Weren't you thin most of our teenage years?
I remember when puberty came and my body made a change. And how I remember that was, this is after we had dealt with this whole dieting thing, you and I, and going to visit Grandma Sroufe in Southern Ohio, and had just gone through that sort of pubescent change. And the response I got from Grandma and the Schroefs down there was how much I had changed. But I don't think I had lost that much weight. I just got taller and my body was burning off more calories, burning off more food. Beyond that, I don't remember anything else except the occasional weigh-in when we were very young. It got thinner. And while I was thinner, I was delivering newspapers 6 days a week. That's how I started my day, 4 to 5 in the morning, Monday through Saturday. I was walking, no matter what the weather. I was walking, and then I'd walk to the bus stop. Then I'd walk home from the bus stop and study, and then get up and do it again. Just walking kept me thin for the longest time. I also remember one year that I was on the high school swimming team. It was only my freshman year, and I didn't lose weight, but my body changed and I got trimmer. And what impressed me was I was able to eat whatever I wanted, and my body kept changing in that positive way. Well, I was swimming for 2.5 hours every day. It's about activity. It really is.
Yeah, and our family's not known for high levels of activity. I mean, I can remember even on the weekends going to visit Dad, there was a lot of sitting in front of the TV, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Good food, and plenty of food. What's interesting is the food never went up or down to match the level of activity in which we were engaged or not engaged. So I found that interesting. Right. But I think you're right. A lot of it was about the activity. We talk about weight loss and dieting as about an 80-20 relationship. So it's about 80% food and 20% of physical activity. But there's some science out there that shows now that weight loss is more important to keep the weight off than it is in losing the weight. I mean, so if you're going to maintain weight loss, you have to move, you have to exercise. A sedentary body is a fat body. So there's no way around that. I remember thinking too about our grandfather, Grandpa Sroufe. The day he died was a thin man. There was a man who moved every day of his life as a farmer, growing tobacco and the like, and was never, that I can remember until he died in 1974, a pound overweight. But he was eating the same food that you and I sat down to eat at that table when we would go and visit, right?
Right.
We all ate the same food.
My understanding is that he had high blood pressure and didn't take his medication, and that's what, in the end killed him. That's what I remember. I could be wrong about that. But he was thin, he was trim, he was active. He worked until the day he died.
You make a good point about the benefits of a whole food plant-based diet that have nothing to do with weight. This program deals mostly with obesity, but whether you're obese or not, thin people get heart disease too. Thin people die of heart attacks too if they're not eating the right kind of food. When did you first gain, as an adult, when did you first gain a lot of weight that, was a substantial amount of weight? Was it when you stopped?
I remember when I was in college, and it was a residential college, so I wasn't, coming home at night. And there were cereal, which was all you could eat. And plus, if you stayed up late at night, there was beer and pizza and snacking and all that. And the one thing that was good about my college was you had to walk back and forth every day. So you did get that benefit, but it wasn't enough to make up for a small and gradual weight gain over the few years of college. I remember going to the medical center on campus, and I was having issues with weight and so forth. And I was still in pretty decent shape, but even the nurse made the comment that I keep gaining weight every year. And that might be part of the problem that I was having with breathing and other respiratory issues. But I would take the weight I was then versus the weight I'm now. It's possibly a 200-pound difference, and consider myself very happy and very fortunate. But when I had the opportunity to eat all I wanted 3 times a day, even though I was on campus and walking everywhere, I was gaining weight because it wasn't enough exercise to mitigate all the food that I was eating and the drinking that we did back in school.
Oh, yeah. It just goes to prove that, again, the diet's going to be the most important thing. You can't out-exercise a bad diet in the end. I mean, not with the kind of food that we're capable of eating. Let's face it, we can eat a lot of food, or could back in the day anyway. I remember for me, I started Ohio State University in 1979, and I lost 50 pounds that first quarter when we were in the so first 10, 12 weeks I was there because I was not driving to school. I was getting on the bus and going up to school, getting off the bus and walking all across that huge campus every and lost a significant amount of weight as long as I was active. But I can also remember when I was driving to that same university and parking my car at Mershon Auditorium there on High Street across from a plethora of restaurants. You had your choice back then. And I would go to this I'd go into this Euro shop on High Street, very popular place right there at 15th and High, and I would order 2 euros and 2 orders of fries and 2 Diet Cokes. And I ordered 2 dozen Diet Cokes so that they thought that I was ordering for me and someone else, and not that I was ordering just for me. And I'd take them both back to my car and sit there and eat them. And that became kind of an occasional habit. Every now and then, I would eat this really large quantity of food. And I'm not so sure why that happened, but I think it happened in response to being on some kind of a diet where I was so restrictive that eventually the hunger mechanism took over, So it was, it's been a journey, but I'm like you. I wish that I had stopped dieting in my 20s and stayed somewhere in that weight. I was a much healthier person at 250 pounds than I am at 450 pounds.
Yes.
It's a thing that you're not taught. We didn't know back then that yo-yo dieting itself was as more dangerous than just being overweight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I learned that from my doctor, who said one of the side effects of my yo-yo dieting is my atrial fibrillation. I never had a problem with my heart before, but, a few years ago, I went to trouble of losing well over 100 pounds, and I was eating a right diet and doing all the exercising I could do and was getting in shape, not just losing weight, building muscle. And then I let myself get distracted by life, and I stopped doing all that, and I started putting the weight back on. And then after a couple of years, I started having issues, and it turns out that it was with my heart. And the doctor said it was the up and down, which he'd known me for 25 years. He's seen it. That's what is one of the possible triggers. So now I have to take medicine every day to help manage that. Will I ever be off the medicine? Not unless I lose the weight again. And then when I do, I have to keep the weight off. Otherwise, I have to remain on the medication. It's just one of the side effects of up and down yo-yo dieting.
Well, yeah, one of the other side effects you have to watch out for is your gallbladder, because you process fat through that gallbladder, and you can blow it out pretty easily. So the yo-yo dieting is a bad idea, and one that we should stop right away. I want to go back to the whole genetics thing. Every now and then, our father, the wonderful human being that he is, loves to remind us that we need to lose weight.
Right.
But every time, and that's all. I don't know that you ever need to sit and tell a fat person, an overweight person, that they need to lose weight. I'm not so sure I understand why that needs to be pointed out to us, as if we're like, oh, I didn't know. I had no idea. Are you sure? Are you sure? Where's your science about that?
That's why I keep buying bigger clothes. Oh, man.
Oh, now I get it. I try not to say too much to him, because he really does come from a good place about it. But I roll my eyes every time he says something, because he goes into this other spiel. He's like, you need to go get a checkup. You need to go to the doctor and see what they say, and make sure you let them know that in your family we've got blood clots. Because
right.
Aunt Jackie and what was our cousin's name that died at a very young age? Danny.
Danny
had blood clot, and he had hurt his ankle or something, and was going into the hospital to get that taken care of, I guess, and had a blood clot that killed him in his 20s. And I'll never forget, I remember looking at Danny and thinking, oh my gosh, I hope I'll never be that big, and I didn't until I did, but The blood clots, it's another thing. And in our families, we've got to stop this kind of blaming it on the genetics, because it makes us victims. And I said this in a call the other night. It makes us victims. It makes us think that there's nothing that we can do about our circumstance. Right? I mean, you and I'm going to be 60 next month. Well, actually, in a few days, and you're a year and a half behind me. And I don't want to think that it's over in terms of our chances to live a healthy life. Right? I still think that the effort needs to be put in there. And according to the science, it's going to be put in there every day that we're walking on this planet if we want to achieve some sense of a healthy body.
Right.
But it's doable. There's nothing in the genetic code that says that it's not doable. And one final takeaway for everybody about the genetic code is genetics are expressed often based upon our behavior. In other words, Dr. T. Colin Campbell and his research on cancer with rats learned that you can turn your genetics on and off based upon your diet. And that's the big takeaway for people to think about, is that you get to be the decider about your health outcomes. You know, you and I talk about it a lot, but we have to do it, and you have to stay with it.
It's doing the work.
It's doing the work, and it's continuing to do the work. We'll talk about this in upcoming conversations on the Diet Daze show, but it's continuing to do the work and then taking it low and slow, I think. The rapid weight loss is, as you found out, dangerous. It's also setting yourself up for rapid weight gain. That's the yo-yo swings like that. It's up and down really fast. What we need is that slow descension in weight. According to the National Weight Loss Registry, there are people who lose it fast. There are people that lose it more slowly, but they think that about a pound or two a week is good. Any faster than that, and you set yourself up for problems. I think it sends the body into shock. The body is, what are you doing here?
Yeah.
So we got to get that pattern right and figure it all out.
One of the things I was looking forward to this past year, when I made the decision to take time off and to explore career changes, I thought, well, I'll have a few months to get my body together. Well, then COVID came along, and I'm like, well, it may be even longer before I take that next step into a career change. And I got off track. And one of the things I did was, while hanging out with Mom, I ate whatever I wanted. And I didn't have at least the minimum movement of getting into my car, going somewhere, walking to a building across a parking lot, getting at least that going on. I wasn't doing anything. And did I do anything about it? No. So, of course, I gained even more weight. And I knew what I was doing at the time. But I didn't do anything about it. And now here I am with the prospect, I'm going back to work. Fortunately, I can work from home, but still, I don't like that I didn't take advantage of the opportunity to spend time, not even money, just time, preparing the right foods, getting the right amount of movement, doing all the things that I could have done.
Yeah. The question that I have, 2 years ago, I had a kind of a mental breakdown. I walked away from the company that I was co-owner of for 12 years. And I came and I sat down on the couch staring at the wall and at the TV for 2 years. And that's when I gained. Over the past 3 years, have gained. I had lost 60 pounds. I was down to 300 pounds back in 2015, working out with a trainer 3 and 4 days a week. I had a great relationship with a great trainer. I got really good exercise, got in really good shape. And then at some point it stopped. And I stopped exercising, slowly started gaining the weight. 2018, I left my job and came home and did nothing for 2 years and gained even more. I gained 150 plus pounds over a 5 year period. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting here wondering, I mean, there's a mental component to all this. You and I are intelligent people. You don't eat a plant-based diet, though we've talked about it. But there's a mental component to this. Of knowing what to do to lose the weight, but then just not doing it. And you have to ask yourself, and we talk about this with my weight loss coach, the why of it all. You know, what is it that makes us get up and do this? It's nothing in our genetic code that's going to create that part for us. It's about finding your own why. What is it you want your life to look like? And then how do you go about that? Well, for me, my life is a lot more physically active than it is now. I can't wait for my genetic code to do anything for me. I'm going to have to get up and figure it out. So I've got my weight loss coach lined up. I called my old trainer back and said, take me in. I started a weight loss group on Facebook and said, hey, let's all do this together. And I think it's the beginning of the beginning. It's the beginning of getting it right and doing it till the day I die, focusing on my health. So I'm hoping you'll come along with me and that others on this little path of ours will say, yes, let's all do it together and make it a life worth living and a life worth enjoying.
Sounds like a good idea.
That's my preaching, and I'm not going to change a word of it.
Right. All right. You shouldn't change a word of it because it's what we have to do if we're going to have any quality of life. Because, to be frank, I'm tired of sitting at home doing nothing but eating, and I'm ready to sit at home and make money. But then when I leave this home office, that I take care of my house, take care of our mother, and get out. I've got a gym in my garage if I just get it organized and set up. Or I go around the corner and then there's 2 gymnasiums right next to each other within a 3-minute drive from my house. So there's no reason, no excuse of not doing it. And I have the benefit. I'm like you. I love good food. So for me, eating right doesn't mean giving up quality food and tasty foods. It's just taking the time to prepare the right things and to eat the right things. I'm just as happy snacking on some raw vegetables as I am on some potato chips.
Well, no, I
don't have that negative feeling afterwards. No.
Yeah. Well, it's a matter of putting into place all of those good behaviors that you want to happen, and a matter of scheduling and making it happen. It's a matter of saying, today at 10 o'clock, I'm working out in the gym, and that's going to be my regular workout schedule, and doing that, right? We have to find that motivation. We have to not find excuses for not doing it. You know, it's
right.
You just do it. You do it whether you want to or not. You do it until it becomes an automatic thing, like brushing your teeth. You know, you don't think about whether you brush your teeth or not. Why should you think about whether you're going to eat healthy or not? Or why should you think about whether you're going to go to the gym or not? You just do those things. Just do it. Well, I look forward to the next 25 years of our friendship and being your favorite brother. And the fun to be had.
I think we've got some good plans for the future, things we want to do and need to do. I'd love to buy one of those little houses in Italy for a few euros. Nice little place to visit when it's wintertime here. There are lots of options, lots of things to do, lots of things to see. And can't do it just sitting at home doing nothing, getting fatter.
Amen for that. My brother, I love you. Thank you.
Love you too.
We'll talk again, I'm sure.
All righty. Have a great one.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.